He gave the world rubber. The world gave him debt. Charles Goodyear died owing $200,000. His wife had nothing. His children had nothing. The funeral was modest. The man who made the industrial age possible was buried without ceremony in a country that was already building its future on the material he had spent his life perfecting, and had never properly paid him for it. This is his story. It is not a comfortable one. Charles Goodyear was born in New Haven, Connecticut, in 1800, the son of a hardware merchant who went bankrupt. He grew up understanding financial failure as a family tradition, and he would carry that tradition forward with a dedication that bordered on the heroic and crossed, at moments, into something else entirely. He became obsessed with rubber in the early 1830s, when the material was still a novelty, remarkable in theory, useless in practice. Natural rubber was brittle and cold and sticky in heat. It cracked in winter and melted in summer. Manufacturers had tried to make it practical and failed. The few rubber products that existed were considered novelties or curiosities rather than serious materials. There was no rubber industry worth the name. Goodyear believed he could fix this. He believed it with the particular ferocity of a man who has found the thing he was made to spend his life on, and he pursued it with a total disregard for every other consideration: his finances, his health, his family's welfare, the opinions of everyone around him. He converted his kitchen into a laboratory. He worked with sulfur, lead, turpentine, and a rotating series of other compounds, trying to find the formulation that would make rubber stable across temperatures. The fumes were toxic. He inhaled them for years. His health deteriorated steadily. He developed the pale, sunken look of a man being consumed from the inside by the chemicals he worked with, and he kept working. His family starved. This is not a metaphor. There were periods when the Goodyear household had no food, when his wife and children survived on charity from neighbors and relatives, while he continued his experiments. He was arrested for debt multiple times and spent significant portions of the 1830s in debtors' prison, where he continued to experiment, smuggling materials into his cell and conducting research between the bars. His neighbors thought he was insane. His creditors thought he was a fraud. His family loved him and suffered for it. The breakthrough came in 1839, and it came the way breakthroughs sometimes do, not through a planned experiment, but through an accident whose meaning only became clear because the right person was watching. Goodyear was in his kitchen, frustrated after another failed attempt, when he dropped a mixture of rubber and sulfur onto the hot surface of a stove. The mixture did not melt. It did not crumble. It charred at the edges in a way that was different, controlled, stable, behaving like leather rather than like the unpredictable material he had been fighting for years. He stared at it. He understood immediately what he was looking at. He called the process Vulcanization, after Vulcan, the Roman god of fire. The principle was straightforward. Exposing rubber to heat with sulfur caused a chemical reaction that created cross-links between the polymer chains, making the material stable, elastic, and durable across a wide range of temperatures. The rubber that emerged from the process could be used for tires, hoses, boots, seals, valves, for essentially every application that the industrial world needed and that natural rubber could not provide. He patented the process in 1844. This was when a different kind of hell began. Manufacturing companies across the United States and Europe recognized the value of what he had discovered almost immediately. Several of them also recognized that a man in Goodyear's financial condition, constantly in debt, constantly in court, would have difficulty defending his patents against well-funded infringers. They were correct. Dozens of companies produced and sold vulcanized rubber products without paying him anything. He sued. He sued repeatedly, obsessively, pouring the money he should have been saving into legal fees, winning cases that produced judgments he could not collect, starting over. In England, a manufacturer named Thomas Hancock had developed a similar process slightly later than Goodyear and obtained a British patent first, making Goodyear's invention effectively unprotectable in Europe, the largest market for rubber products. The financial implications were staggering. The moral implications were ignored. He won his most famous patent case in 1852, represented by Daniel Webster, in an argument that Webster described as the most important patent case in American history. The court agreed. The verdict meant nothing for Goodyear's finances. The infringers appealed, delayed, and continued. He kept inventing. He became convinced that rubber had applications that no one had yet imagined. And he was right. He developed early forms of rubber flooring, rubber fabric, hard rubber for furniture and dental equipment. He exhibited his work at international exhibitions, where he was celebrated as a visionary and awarded medals by governments that had no intention of paying him. He was celebrated in Paris. He was arrested for debt in Paris. In the same year, in the same city. He was taken from his hotel to prison and released when his friends paid the debt, and then he went back to work. He died in 1860, 60 years old, his body wrecked by decades of exposure to toxic compounds, his finances destroyed by decades of legal battles. His wife survived him by years. She had no money. His children had no inheritance. The company that bears his name, the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, was founded 38 years after his death by people who had nothing to do with him and simply understood that his name meant something. His name meant something because of what he had given the world. Tires, hoses, seals and gaskets, and every flexible, durable rubber component that the industrial age ran on. The automobile, the bicycle, the waterproof boot, the surgical glove. All of it built on vulcanization, all of it made possible by the decade of toxic fumes in a kitchen in Connecticut, by the accident on the stove, by the man who understood what he was looking at when it happened. He never owned a tire. He died in debt. The world he made has been rolling ever since.